Hey there YouTube, Wrestling Optimus here, back with another action figure review. It's Wednesday, the best night of the wrestling week, which means it's time for AEW Dynamite on TNT. More importantly, my new arena is finally complete, and I'm so excited to show it off. I hope you like it. As always, if you're new here, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more pro wrestling and action figure content. Now, we're headed into my own personal dailies place, so for a recap and review, let's take it over to the action figures. Dynamite opens backstage with Dasha interviewing MJF about Wardlow's tournament match tonight. Max claims that if Wardlow wins the title, so does he, because Wardlow is under contract to him. Sammy Guevara comes over, still upset about the whole jacket fiasco, and says he's going to make sure MJF never joins the inner circle. They have a stare down. Sure enough, our first match is a semi-final in the World Title Eliminator Tournament. Wardlow takes on Hangman Adam Page, who starts out aggressively, but it has little effect on the big fella as he easily overpowers him. So Page tries flying, but gets caught in midair. However, he does hit a moonsault later on. Another attempt at some offense only pisses off Wardlow more, so he spears Hangman through a barricade. After getting him back in the ring, Wardlow hits an F10, but Page rolls out to avoid the pin. He gains his composure and escapes a top rope Death Valley driver before hitting 2 consecutive buckshot lariats to pick up the victory and advance to the finals. He chugs a beer in celebration. It's our weekly video package from Jon Moxley. He says he defended the AEW World Championship all year long in order to help make it the #1 prize in the sport, but that was business. Full Gear will be personal. Mox explains that there's no room in AEW for a miserable, excuse-making son of a bitch like Eddie Kingston. This is where the best athletes in the world come to do work, and when he wins, he'll have done what he did to every other big mouth, crush their ego. Moxley just hopes that it wakes Kingston up. Speak of the devil, Eddie is flanked by the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny after reuniting them on Dark and getting the Bunny to admit that she was just using QT Marshall all along. After a commercial, Eddie says that even though Moxley is sitting at home like a coward, he still wants a fight. So he's taking on the Joker who tried to steal his thunder in the Casino Battle Royale, a match he was never eliminated from, by the way. He waves to Lance Archer in the crowd as Matt Sydal comes out. It's a standard Eddie Kingston match, with his brawling contrasting nicely with Sydal's high flying. In the end, as a dig at Moxley, Eddie locks in the Bulldog choke and wins by submission. His family forces Sydal to say "I quit" before he releases the hold. Kingston is arguably the best live promo in AEW, while Moxley's video packages are equally amazing. These two don't need to physically confront each other every week to build heat for their match. In a commendable departure from the norm, they've stayed apart unless the story called for it. Now, fans will gladly lay down their hard-earned cash to finally see the blow-off on pay-per-view. That's how you do pro wrestling business. Excalibur interviews the Young Bucks with FTR on Zoom. He starts with Matt's ankle, which he says is fine and won't keep him from the match that they've been building to for years. To that point, Excalibur asks FTR why they'd jeopardize what fans have been clamoring for by injuring Matt. Simple, they don't care about dream matches. They only care about retaining the AEW World Tag Team titles. Whoever walks out of Full Gear the champions will cement their legacy as the best tag team in the world. Excalibur awkwardly changes topics and asks about the Young Bucks' recent behavior. They say that while they're not proud of it, they don't regret it. For the last year, something's been missing, and they couldn't quite put their finger on it. When FTR started messing with them, though, it flipped a switch and unleashed their killer instinct. Feeling disrespected by the lack of questions and airtime, FTR storm out, saying, "See you at Full Gear." The Young Bucks continue on, stating that Matt has an idea for a stipulation. They only ever succeed in this business when they bet on themselves. So at Full Gear, if they can't win, they'll never challenge for the tag team titles again. Wow, unlike when Cody did this, there are no other tag belts for the Bucks to go after, so that really raises the stakes. It's time for tonight's Town Hall, hosted by Dasha Gonzalez and Tony Schiavone, where the people will help the Inner Circle decide whether or not to admit MJF. I don't know about anyone else, but I have loved all the political theming for this and the debate. It's so well done and adds to the snarkiness of the whole presentation. Also, the crowd was extra pumped for this one, which gave it a ton of energy. The entire Inner Circle comes out to a particularly rowdy chorus of Judas, followed by MJF without Wardlow. Luchasaurus has the first question. As a representative of dinos and a medieval historian with a master's degree, he understands the power of economics to change societies over time. So how can MJF contribute to the earning potential and financial prosperity of the Inner Circle? Max is prepared and pulls up a statistical chart with a graph showing an upward sloping green line which supposedly represents the financial benefits of him joining. Rebel fangirls for Jericho before Dr. Britt Baker asks how Chris feels about MJF's terrible track record when it comes to friendships in AEW. Jericho says that's valid, and he's aware of Max's past, but he's not a dipshit like Cody who would let MJF turn on him. Besides, if he tries, they'll kick his ass. MJF eases the tension by saying they all got into the wrestling business for money and titles. He promises that together, they can have lots of both. Peter Avalon, the librarian who just lost his match and his girl on Dark, asks to join the Inner Circle and gets laughed out of the arena. Then, Eric fucking Bischoff appears. He quotes JFK and asks what MJF can do for the Inner Circle. Conversely, MJF seems like the complete package, so what does he think the Inner Circle can do for him? MJF gets booed loudly for saying that he can bring friendship. Then he humble brags that he's not the complete package because he doesn't know how to be a team player. However, he thinks the Inner Circle can help. Finally, Bischoff says that he's known Jericho for a long time, and he's, well, a bit of a prima donna. Jericho takes issue to this, to which Tony Schiavone brilliantly screams at him to shut up. Given that MJF also exhibits prima donna tendencies, how will they coexist? Max suspiciously protests until Jericho tells him to answer the question, and adds, "How do we know you won't stab us in the back?" MJF claps back that for weeks he's given the Inner Circle everything. He even helped Jericho put together the greatest segment in pro wrestling history. What exactly hasn't he done? Well, he hasn't beaten Jericho. So at Full Gear, he'll get his chance. And if he wins, he's in. Max agrees but warns he'll do whatever it takes to win. Fed up, Ortiz chimes in and says the group hasn't talked yet, but he already knows that he and Sammy don't want MJF. In fact, they challenge him and Wardlow to a tag team match next week where they intend to make sure that MJF doesn't even make it to the pay-per-view. He adds that just because Chris is entertaining the thought doesn't mean that MJF has a shot of getting in. I did not see this match coming, especially so soon and on an already stacked pay-per-view card. I also can't predict who will win. Jericho is generally protected, and up until recently, MJF was undefeated. It'll be interesting to see where they go with this. We get a video from Team Taz saying that they think Will Hobbs is legit. They like that he's athletic, fast, big, and mean as hell, but the clock is ticking on their offer, and he needs to make a decision. Brian Cage asks, "Are you in, or are you out?" Up next, Cody defends his TNT Championship against freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy in a lumberjack match. The challenger comes out first, with Best Friends serving as his lumberjacks. In what's come to be his usual fashion, Cody comes out to one of the biggest entrances of the night. He's accompanied by his manager, Arn Anderson, and two of his own lumberjacks, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall. Continuing his turn to the dark side, not only is he now calling himself the Prince of Pro Wrestling, but later on, he arrogantly does some push-ups in the middle of the match. As stated last week, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, John Silver, 5 and 10 of the Dark Order are also lumberjacks, along with most notably, the Gun Club. Cody immediately tries a crossroads, but Orange escapes. He pretends to put his hands in his pockets, then shoots for Cody's leg and starts chain wrestling. JR points out that we still don't know how deep Cassidy's wrestling repertoire goes. All I know is that he seems to bust out something new in every match, and I love it. When Cassidy falls to the outside, it leads to a stare down between the Lumberjacks, but ends peacefully with a best friend's hug. Got to give the people what they want. It's a different story when Cody tumbles out though. He winds up in a skirmish with Trent and gets clocked in the face while the ref's back is turned. Both men tumble to the floor on one side and get helped back up by the baby faces. Then they tumble to the floor on the other side and get beaten up by the heels, leading to a massive brawl between the Lumberjacks. In the ensuing chaos, Cody suplexes Cassidy onto the pile, wiping everyone out. With a sudden rush of adrenaline, Orange hits a Stundog Millionaire, a flying DDT, and the beach break, but somehow Cody kicks out. Side note, that's bullshit, and just buried his entire moveset. As Cassidy lines up for the Orange Punch, Dark Order storms the ring, distracts the ref, and super kicks him in the face. Arn Anderson gets involved too, hitting Cassidy in the face with something. A confused Cody hits the crossroads and makes the cover to retain his title in a very screwy victory. The Lumberjacks spill into the ring as Billy delivers a famouser to 10 and the Gun Club clear house. Once again, Darby Allin can be seen watching on from the nosebleeds. In addition to his match now being set for Full Gear, they announced that Orange Cassidy will face off against John Silver on the buy-in pre-show. That should be hysterical. Best friends are interrupted by Miro and Kip Sabian backstage, who explain that they freaked out because Allin was a wedding present and it was very sentimental. However, they forgive best friends and actually brought them a gift. Penelope Ford walks in hilariously dressed as Orange Cassidy and says, "Trick or treat." With that, Miro throws a bucket of candy at them and they fight into the locker room. Miro chokes Trent against a wall while grunting, "I will never forgive you." Time for our only women's action of the evening. Commentary explains that Serena Deeb, who wrestled Hikaru Shida on Dynamite a few weeks ago, defeated Thunder Rosa to become the new NWA World Women's Champion. Tonight, she'll be defending it against legit Layla Hirsch, a muscular shoot wrestler supposedly from Russia. She shows off her amateur skills immediately, taking the champ to the mat in a technical clinic with lots of holds and counters. They get more time than normal, but it still goes through a commercial. In the end, Serena hits a neckbreaker and submits Layla with a modified single-leg crab to retain. On one hand, I'm really glad the women's division is benefiting from this working relationship with the NWA. On the other hand, it's kind of embarrassing that AEW has to use another promotion's belt to get its women over. Afterwards, Alex Marvez interviews Hikaru Shida about Nyla Rose refusing to wrestle until she gets a title match. Shida says, "Nyla, you want me? I want you, at Full Gear." So I guess that match is set, and this pay-per-view just keeps getting more and more epic. Shawn Spears comes out with Tully Blanchard and his trusty black glove to take on the debuting VSK, who I'm not familiar with. He immediately hits the C4 and slowly makes the pin. After the match, someone dressed in a bull costume starts throwing candy at him. Spears goes to investigate and pulls the guy into the ring to reveal that it's Scorpio Sky, who Spears has been feuding with on Dark. He hits a TKO and stares down Blanchard. Tonight's events set up next week's Dynamite. Miro vs. Trent, Shawn Spears vs. Scorpio Sky, and a 6-man tag team match between Cody and the Gun Club vs. the Dark Order. Our main event is the other semi-final match. Rey Fenix accompanies his brother, and the man who took his spot in this match, to the ring as Pentagon takes on Kenny Omega. Fenix tries to show solidarity with a fist bump, but Pentagon just slaps it away. During Kenny's grandiose entrance, he's announced as the hottest thing in the world of wrestling, a special kind of performer, a genius, and a legend, according to various media outlets. He even has an old high school buddy that currently resides in North Carolina. The Sweeper girls are back too, this time wearing Lucha Brothers masks. Kenny takes off his shirt, revealing the AAA Mega Championship that he coincidentally won off Phoenix. It starts with a vicious chop battle. When Penta removes his glove, Omega slaps him with it and arrogantly demands his chop before kicking Penta during the windup. They both show their high-flying abilities with Omega hitting a plancha and Penta diving off the top rope. Kenny hits a powerbomb and a V-trigger, but it only gets a 2 count. He hits a second V-trigger and somehow Penta escapes the one-winged angel. Pentagon hits an amazing Canadian destroyer on the ramp and follows it up with a nasty-looking package piledriver. Deep down, I knew better, but for a split second, I really thought he was going to get the upset. Instead, Kenny connects with a third V-trigger, only this time, his pin attempt is reversed into an armbar. Despite his now injured arm, Omega fights out of a pump handle slam, hits a fourth V-trigger, and finally nails the one-winged angel to get the win and advance to the finals, where he'll take on his old tag team partner, Hangman Page. What an absolutely incredible match. I think most people knew Kenny would win, so it was great how they let Pentagon have most of the offense to wear down Omega until the false finish was believable. Besides advancing Kenny to his inevitable blow-off match with Page at the pay-per-view, this also served as another peek into Kenny's revitalized cleaner character and his cocky, egotistical style from New Japan. I honestly don't know what to say in these summaries anymore. Dynamite is such a consistently brilliant show that I can't really add anything of substance. It's like going to see a Marvel movie. You know it's going to be good, it's only a question of how good and which parts are your favorites. To that end, I'd say this was an above-average show by their own lofty standards, and my favorite parts were MJF and Jericho, per usual, plus all the chaos of the Lumberjack match. I don't think it's controversial to say, as good as Wardlow vs. Hangman was, Kenny vs. Pentagon was the match of the night. Still, the wrestling was good across the board. Heck, even the women's action was decent, though there's still not nearly enough of it. I'm pretty sure NXT's Halloween Havoc special is going to win the ratings battle this week, but it's telling that they need a special episode to do so. Alright, that will do it for AEW Dynamite. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. I won't be doing any WWE reviews until I complete a new WWE stage, but I got some other content coming, and of course, I'll be back next week with an action figure review of the Go Home show for Full Gear, so definitely check back then. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to do all that normal YouTube stuff. Smash the like button, share with any wrestling or action figure fans you may know, subscribe to the channel, and spread the word. You can also talk to me over on Twitter, at PSUOptimus. Or see all my best figure photography over on Instagram at Wrestling Optimus. If you haven't seen my review of Hell in a Cell, you can check that out right here. But until next time, I've been Wrestling Optimus, and I'll catch you later.